Sweet mother of mercy, what the Denver Broncos just did to the Philadelphia Eagles is turning heads all over the NFL, but not here in Denver because we knew this was coming. We knew Sean Payton doesn't just talk out of both sides of his mouth when he said this team was a Super Bowl caliber team, but the advanced analytics from yesterday just keep pouring in, and Bo Nix did something that no other quarterback in the NFL has done to the Philadelphia Eagles defense, and it's even better than we thought. We're breaking that down way more in this video. If you're new to the channel, we're diehard Denver Broncos fans. I'm Ben. Helps me in the YouTube algorithm out a ton. If you like the Broncos, would you smash that like and subscribe button? So a couple things turning heads absolutely is the fact that you are going up against an offense just loaded with superstars, and they had no answer for what the Denver Broncos threw at them yesterday. Amazing adjustments by Vance Joseph, and you are looking at the Broncos just pulling away with a lead that will not close, and that is the league for leading the league this year in sacks. We know last season Broncos hitting the quarterback 60-plus times, and a lot of people are calling, hey, that's only going to regress. You can't do that 2 years in a row. Well, the Broncos are out to blow that record out of the water here, seeing that we have 21 sacks so far this year, knowing that we just went up against one of the best offensive lines in football. And truly, through our first 6 games here, you're looking at the Broncos playing all of the best offensive lines in football with the Colts, the Chargers, and the Eagles, and the Broncos having their way with all of them. All we heard all offseason long was how much more improved the Tennessee Titans offensive line was, and the Broncos made it look like Swiss cheese that we got this huge 5-sack lead over the Detroit Lions, and they're absolutely not going to close that. Phenomenal. Now, a big part of that credit is going to Sir Nick Bonito here, who has just made that hometown discount look like absolute highway robbery that George Payton was able to convince him to sign there when he is playing out of his mind here. He's on pace to break the NFL record for sacks in a season. And again, I don't think he has as good of offensive lines that he's going up against the back half of our schedule as he had these first 5 games. It is absolutely wild. We're just seeing here that he's first in sacks, first in pressures, second in quick pressures. You know who the only person who gets a quicker pressure than him in the entire NFL is? It is the guy right to the left of him, Jonathan Cooper, and then he's 25th in pass rush snaps. So the other amazing part of that is that we were able to spell him. There was quite a few times in yesterday's game as I'm doing my live stream, I was looking at our pass rush out there and being like, oh, we got Jonah Ellis and Dondre Tillman out here, which is a great thing because you are letting him be rested and ready to rock, that there is no drop-off when he goes off, that when he comes in, he is ready to terrorize opposing quarterbacks. And what I loved here, Frankie Abbott pointed this out, but so did Nick Bonito himself when he said, hey, I know I'm having a great year, I'm playing really well, but I have to give credit to that entire defensive line. There was one sack yesterday in particular that would not have happened without Zach Allen. And then if we just look at the constant pressure of Jonathan Cooper to not try to be a me-first guy and to keep Jalen Hurts contained, because we know Jalen Hurts thrives the most when he is in chaos environments. We looked at that advanced analytic last week. And so it takes a dedicated pass rush to not get out of your skis and keep him in the pocket. And so Jonathan Cooper did an amazing job yesterday against one of the best right tackles, not just this year in the NFL, but over the past 5 years in the NFL here. And he played absolutely out of his mind. And I love the fact that this team is giving credit to each other when it comes to that. We're going to get to the London here in just a second. The next reason why the rest of the NFL is absolutely turning their heads is so much for a sophomore slump from Bo Nix, because we saw him go out and put up an 88 passer rating against the Philadelphia Eagles, which was by far the highest passer rating against them this entire season. But it gets even better because you had not had a single quarterback throw for higher than 85 all season. Bo Nix did it. Hadn't had a single quarterback throw for over 200 yards and no picks. Bo Nix didn't. And someone who averaged 6 yards an attempt and a completion rate over 60%. And Bo Nix did all of those things. I need to remind you, who has the Philadelphia Eagles played the last 4 games? Well, they've played Matthew Stafford, who's in the race for MVP. They've played Sir Dak Prescott, or Dak as he's known. Again, the highest paid quarterback in football. They've played Patrick Mahomes, and they've played Baker Mayfield. So you're seeing that Bo Nix, when Sean Payton said he's going to be a top 4 or 5 quarterback in the league in the next couple years, he outdueled and played better against the Philadelphia Eagles defense than any of those names that I just mentioned, and we cannot take that for granted. That is a coming out party for Bo Nix. That is what we had said he was going to do based on what we saw of him his rookie year. He is hitting the ground running, and just he's going to take things to new levels. I think we're all going to look back on this game as the pinnacle game of like, when did we know that we actually had a Super Bowl caliber roster? It was when Sean Payton said it in August, but then it was like, this is the receipts to prove that you go in and you beat the Super Bowl champs on a short week in their house, when all of the cards are against you, when the refereeing is against you, which we're going to get to again here in just a second. But absolutely impressed with Bo Nix. And there were, him and Cortland Sutton and their connection just cannot be understated, because you were talking not only against a nasty defensive front. I also got to remind you that Dak Prescott didn't play as well against this Eagles defense. And we remember the first play of that game, their best defender got kicked out of the game for hawking a loogie on him. And so Bo Nix played a full strength Philadelphia Eagles defense and just cut them up. And then you had Cortland Sutton just carve up Quinton Mitchell, who's had an incredible year. And that was the point, as I did my crossover episode with Simone with the Sports. She just said Quinton Mitchell is the best corner in football, she thought. And you see 6 of 8 targets for 81 yards on him. And you just see some of the most like clutch throws that you can even imagine. Like this one here was on 3rd and 6. We're going to look at one on 3rd and 15. But this back shoulder fade against an incredible defender, that was just so clutch. As we were debating, like, do you run it here and just keep the clock moving? And Sean Payton was going for broke. He was going for 2. He was doing deep shots. He was not scared of this team. Even after in their post-game like breakdown, Sean Payton asked them, who are you guys afraid of? And the answer is they're not afraid of anybody, because you just went out and beat the best. Benny Fowler says that all the time on DNVR. To be the best, you got to beat the best. And the Broncos just did that. Just seeing here, this was the play after the refs threw that horrible penalty where they called Pat Bryant for an offensive pass interference, even though he was the one who was pulled into the guy. It was not a pick play. You put the Broncos in 3rd and 15, which a lot of Broncos teams, 3rd and 15, where at this point you're like, hey, let's just run it and get a field goal. And your Denver Broncos go for the jugular and say, 3rd and 15, let's go. Let's send it right here. And this was an absolute dart, a gorgeous pass against one of the best corners in football, not named Pat Surtain. Just a gutsy throw and an incredible catch by Court. And what a route, man. Cortland Sutton has just, again, that was a move that we made in the offseason, and people are like, oh, is he past his prime? And we saw a high ceiling with Cortland Sutton, and I feel like it just keeps continuing to bump up, and we should be super, super excited about that. And then I think there was a tweet here somewhere that was the worst game in Quinton Mitchell's career. I think Zach Stevens had a tweet there. I'm not sure exactly where that is, but just wildly impressed with that. Seeing the fact that one of the questions about this Broncos defense was going in was like, hey, can we stop the run? Because we got to play the Chargers again this year. They want to run the ball. We got to play the Raiders twice. They want to run the ball. And at the end of that game, you're looking that there's 9 touches for Saquon Barkley, the best running back in the league. So they knew that it was a fool's errand to try to run on this Broncos defense. Just a very, very bullish sign for why we're going to be phenomenal. Vance Joseph called a heck of a game, and especially in the second half. We talked about in our pregame preview that the secret to beating Jalen Hurts was make him throw into zone coverage. I played the clip from Jason Kelce where he said if you just move Pat Surtain with A.J. Brown, that's the best thing for this Philadelphia Eagles offense, because they carve up man defense, and they sure did, because most of their production in the first half was all on us playing man. You look at Jalen Hurts' final numbers. He was 9 of 14 for 142 yards and 2 touchdowns when he played man. But when Vance Joseph called zone, he had his 6 sacks and 138 yards, going 14 for 23. So phenomenal adjustment there that we did zone defense the bulk of the second half. And it wasn't just like one look zone. Like we had that one play where we blitzed McMillian on the left side, and then you drop Bonito in coverage on the right side. Like he was absolutely in his bag and is coaching for a head job if that's what he wants. I love that as the Denver Broncos prepared for this, Sean Payton schemed this up perfectly and outsmarted the NFL, where he asked that our game to London be stacked with one of our East Coast games to save the Broncos like 7 hours in a plane. They're not flying back to Denver and then flying to London. They went directly from Club Dub, hopped on an airplane, partied on the airplane, and fell asleep. And now they are ready to go and prepare for this London game. But I love how Sean Payton just did this entire thing and orchestrated it. We know that one of the catalysts of the Broncos breaking an almost a decade-long drought of not making the playoffs last year was that East Coast road trip where we played the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Jets, and we stayed out there at East Briar, and went to paintballing and horseback riding and golf carting and all that cool stuff. And it was this college-like atmosphere where you're hanging with your bros every single day, and just the camaraderie in this team, watching the highlights back last night of when we won it, and just the number of players just straight up bro hugging each other. This team loves each other and is playing for each other, not playing for individual accolades, which is probably the coolest part of this. And just seeing like, hey, that is a much more manageable flight to go from Philly to Tottenham next week for an early start than it is to go back to Denver and then make that giant flight. So as we broke down the total air miles that the Broncos had to fly this year, they were in the top half of it. But when you take out the fact that they aren't flying back to Denver and then to England and then back, it drops them back into the bottom half of that league, where, even this week you're seeing the Chargers have to fly from LA all the way out to Miami, a really hot game on the road early in October. It's going to be scorching hot. They're coming off a 2-game losing streak. Everything is in front of it right now. Your Broncos are already back in the playoffs if the season were to end today. If you look here, the win probability of making the playoffs for the Broncos is a 70% win percentage that we make the playoffs, whereas the Chargers, who are on a 2-game losing streak, they started charging about 3 weeks before I thought they would. Omarion Hampton got dinged up in that game. Their offensive line is in shambles. And they're now at a 65% chance of making the playoffs. The Broncos are back and tied with the Chargers. They do have the tiebreaker right now, but the AFC West is 1,000% back in play, which happened so much sooner than any of us thought after dropping that other last-second game to the Chargers. We thought, hey, we might be competing for the division at the very end if things go our way. We are back in pulling position, and who would you rather be right now? The Denver Broncos on a 2-game win streak against the Philadelphia Eagles, the toughest place to play, the toughest team to play, or the Chargers, who have dropped 2 straight. And you see the Raiders falling apart and already Raidering yesterday. We are rooting tonight for the Kansas City Chiefs to drop one to the Jacksonville Jaguars. But it is a fantastic time to be a Broncos fan. We're in this together, y'all. Broncos Country, we got a ton to believe in.